Mr. Behe and Mr. Ruse. The two Michaels, Professor Ruse and Professor Behe. And Mr. Behe will start the questioning.
Michael, I love your writings. And in a recent article in the journal Theoretical Biology, you talked about origin of life studies. And you said, a couple of quotes, "A great deal of the underpinning of discussions on the origin of life have been more philosophical than anything based in brute experience." And also, in origin of life studies, one ought to be alert for more than pure science, and that more may well be philosophical or metaphysical. And you say caveat emptor. I agree with you. Should students be taught this?
Should what?
Should high school students be told about your writings?
About my writings, or about the origin of life?
I
hope so. Goodness gracious, yes. I think that certainly there's a place for that. Whether one were going to discuss something like origin of life, say in a high school biology class, I think would be a different matter. And of course, in my country, in Canada, for instance, we have state-supported church schools, so there would be certainly no constitutional objection to that. I'm not sure that, though, that, for instance, given a lot of the things which are said about origin of life, whether it's Sagan or Lynn Margulis or that sort of thing, it would be appropriate at a high school biology level. But you know that, and I know that.
Well, now Ken has written a good book, and it really is an excellent book. But it does.
Appreciate these endorsements.
Yeah, I do like it. I do like it. I urge people to look at it.
Haven't Ms. Scott and Mr. Lynn written good books?
No, haven't. Great books. Great books. But in Ken's book, he does talk about Stanley Miller's stuff about protenoid theories. Do you think in discussion, when high school books do talk about origin of life stuff, they should consider the philosophical aspects as well?
I certainly think that they should cover it. I mean, at what level, at what depth? I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. If, for instance, you were going to ask high school students to, say, accept Haldane's Marxism as part of the theory, obviously not. If, on the other hand, one were going to talk about evolution and say, well, these are some of the well-known experiments, these are some of the things they've done, but look, folks, be very careful. People tend to read a lot of things into this, and I hope that a good teacher would do this. I'm quite comfortable with that. I mean, high school kids are pretty bright, you know, and pretty intelligent and pretty with it. I don't think that we should dumb down biology for them.
Good. Very good. Now, about 15 years ago, you, in a federal court of the United States, I think you said that one of the characteristics of science, scientific theory, is that it's falsifiable.
Yes, I did.
Is that correct? Can you tell me, I put up a picture of the bacterial flagellum earlier in this discussion. Can you tell me how one could falsify the assertion that it was Darwinian natural selection working on random mutation that produced that flagellum?
Well, I would have thought that for a start you'd look at some of the molecular evidence and see, for instance, whether or not that flagellum, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, it is.
For instance, whether or not the molecular evidence is, whether it, at a molecular level it's homologous, it looks similar to things that we want to put in the same class or the same grouping, or, for instance, does it come out more like a human or something like that? I would have thought that if, for instance, your
flagellum, yes.
Thank you very much.
Like flagellate.
As I say, I'm a philosopher, so I'm not very good. I'm good at long sentences, but not long words. I would have thought that if this microorganism, let me cover myself there, came out with DNA which looked more like humans than humans look like...
We're talking about the flagellum.
No, you asked me for an example of falsifiability.
Answer this question, then go on the offensive. Answer this question, then go on the offensive.
Well, I am answering the question. I'm saying that if the DNA of that microorganism were closer to human beings than human beings are to chimpanzees, I think that Darwinians would need, you know, a long night down at the local bar, quite frankly.
Now it's your turn to ask questions.
Oh, good-o. Well, I'm a little, you know, it's a little mean. Nobody seems to be plugging my books quite as much as I'm plugging other people's books. But I did want to talk about Michae Behe's wonderful book, Darwin's Black Box, where I take it that, and one of the things I want to compliment you on, Michael, and this is not just rhetorical, but is the fact that unlike so many creationists, certainly creationists in the past, you haven't just attacked other people or other people's theories, but that you've tried to explain some views of your own. And I gather, well, I know that you've put forward this view about design and complexity. You describe it in terms which, well, the modesty factor doesn't seem to be too high. The result of these cumulative efforts to investigate the cell, to investigate life at the molecular level, is a loud, clear, piercing cry of design. The result is so unambiguous, so significant, that it must be ranked as one of the greatest achievements in the history of science. The discovery rivals those of Newton and Einstein, Lavoisier and Schrödinger, Pasteur and Darwin.
What's the question?
That's you know, pretty heavy stuff. Tell us about this theory. Tell us, for instance, Newton's theory enables us to quantify, to make predictions. What is your theory?
Well, it's that you can detect intelligent design in the interaction of parts of systems. And it's not really, suppose you were out walking in a woods with a friend of yours, and all of a sudden a friend of yours was pulled up by the ankle by a vine wrapped around it. And as he was left dangling, you pulled him down and you reconstructed, and you saw that the limb was covered over with leaves and that the vine was staked down. You would immediately know that that was designed. It was not an accidental arrangement.
So a design means a designer. Are we talking about God now?
Well, most people think so. I think so, but I want to leave it open, and not just because I'm being coy.
Now, are we talking about a good God now?
Well, let me answer your first question. Francis Crick, in 1972, wrote a paper entitled Directed Panspermia. And the burden of the paper was essentially that problems with imagining an undirected origin of life on Earth were so severe that perhaps we should consider the hypothesis that space aliens sent a rocket ship filled with spores to seed life on Earth a long time ago. Now, if Francis Crick looked at the bacterial flagellum or the intracellular transport system or the blood clotting system and said he thought it was designed by a space alien, I would have no scientific quarrel with him. I argue that you can tell who a system was designed, but the identity of the designer is a more difficult question.
But is this designer responsible when things go wrong, or for parasites, these complex parasites?
Well, that's the argument from evil. That is, bad things happen to good people, and it's been discussed in religious literature for many, many years, going back to the book of Job.
What about complex parasites? Did this designer design complex parasites, or is that evolution?
No.
I mean, you get all the good things, and evolutionists get all the bad things.
All right. That's a very good line, and we'll end on that note. Mr. Buckley and Mr. Lynn.